Feeling trapped by all the stuff? Can't keep up? No time to think or plan? Has the rush and gush of modern life got you trapped?
Slow is the new fast. Slow is the new fast.
Slow is the new fast.
Set your coordinates. It's Mach 0, making time for life, one thing at a time. With your host, the VIP coach, John Davidson.
Welcome. This is JD. You're listening to the podcast, Mach 0, making time for life, one thing at a time. This is our first podcast of 2014. So all entrepreneurs and high-functioning decision makers, welcome to our special podcast. We used to be No Hype Allowed. We did 55 No Hype Allowed shows and then 25 radical creativity shows over the last 2 years. And now we've shaped this into what's called Mach 0. And it's making time for life, one thing at a time. And so if you're a listener to this show, we thank you. I appreciate you following me along on this journey. And I created this podcast, I created this particular topic because I have found that in the rush and gush of modern life, no matter what you're doing, wherever you are, it is so easy to get caught and overwhelmed in all the stuff, all the automatic stuff. And essentially what we do is we keep escaping our potential. We keep escaping the present moment. And so I have created the show to build your understanding and implementation of 3 commitments. I'm going to cut the divide between self and self. So we have a small self and we have a big self. The one from the future that stands in need of you to come into being, to come into reality. So we have a self-to-self relationship. This is the first commitment. And I call this creative freedom. And so it's removing any restraints to being able to access the intelligence of this future you that you have, to live by intention. The second commitment is to cut the divide between self and others. I call this creative value. This is the chance where you can bring your gifts to being useful to the world around you through a business. And so by applying creative value, by having access to creative value, you have to rely on your open heart. You have to have an understanding of the people around you. You have to be able to sincerely create value for others and depend on that value you create for them to have your own security. Because you can't expect any opportunity until you create value for someone. But in order to do that, it's about where you're coming from. So to create true value, it means that we seek to help other people, to provide great value, and value is always in the eye of the beholder. And so the inner work, the inner transformation is a letting go of cynicism. It's a letting go of judgment. It's a letting go of the past and the past voice on the present moment. The third commitment, it's cutting the divide between self and whole. That we become clear that we are part of a larger system. And that as we become more conscious, we enable ourselves to actualize ourselves, to become the fullness of our potential by sensing an emerging collective need that depends on us in the world. Some call it a calling. I think it's a sacred project. And like a luminescent pearl that's inside of an oyster, you're in the process of waking up. You're in the process of coming home to yourself. But in this chapter of life, in this second half of life, you're already noticing that you have to live by your values now. You can't not live by what fundamentally you value most. What matters to you is what organizes your decisions now. And that's a fundamental choice. It's a shift of orientation. So I am so glad that you're going to join me on the journey this year. There'll be all kinds of great shows, tools, and as always, I'm always pulling from breakthroughs and great experiences in our VIP coach program that runs parallel to this show. So welcome aboard. Welcome to 2014. This show is going to be about creating the best year of your life. What does it take to create the best year that you've ever had? Now, I know that over these holidays, you've been thinking about what the year has been for you. You've been thinking about what were the things that kind of landed on your runway this year. Maybe there were things that came in. Maybe there were new things that came in. Maybe there were old things that are on their way out, and you need to take your hands off of them and let them go. You know, there's inflow and there's outflow. That's a creative movement. That's part of the nature of reality, is that reality is dynamic. Nothing stays the same. and everything the future needs is given to us in this moment. You know, there's new aspects that were settling into your life this year, and there's aspects that you were releasing. There's forms, there's elements that we're gathering, there's new ideas that we're gathering, and you were defining those. You were clarifying what those new ideas were and following those ideas and then rising upon those ideas. There were things that were expanding and there were elements that were contracting. And so as you now look back on the year, you can start connecting the dots. You know, what is the inflow for me? Where do I find a lot of inflow? Where do I find a lot of outflow going? A lot of generosity. A lot of energy that I'm putting out in terms of the flow patterns of energy coming in, energy going out in my relationships. What about my expansions? What's wanting to expand? Where am I sensing expansion? Where am I sensing contraction? What's ready to die? What's ready to end? And what's ready to be born? What's ready to be born through me? What's the new dawn that's waiting for me? What is that future that's calling me forth from my innermost knowing? What you're learning is that you can operate from a balanced intelligence. To suggest that you deal with the life that you have or create the future, the alternative future you want, it requires you to really open up all organs of your perception, head, heart, and hand, and to learn to listen for what wants to emerge. So what are the key components to shaping the quality of content that you create this year? Notice what I just said, the quality of the content that you create. What organizes and drives the movement of that content? The first thing is you live by a life plan. You live by a life plan. I mean, you can react and respond to circumstances and try to come back with better responses, but at best that would be human potential. People who work on better reactions and better responses are really lousy creators. Creators learn how to bring things into being that they care about. They identify what they want for its own sake, and then they live into that intention, and they pay attention from that intention. Intention comes into attention. This is a very key piece. So do you live by a life plan? Have you been living by a life plan over the past couple of years? Are you clear about what really does matter to you, not what should matter to you? So let me help you kind of define what that personal outlook or vision might be for you, because you're probably tuning it here at the beginning of the year. It's a great time to think about and commune with the future you 3 years from now. And if you commune with that future you in your entire life plan 3 years from now, then you're anchoring that into all your decisions, your actions, and your communications today. So the first area is your health. I mean, if you're flat on your back and you have $1 million in the bank, are you going to enjoy it? Think about how many things depend on your health. Fitness. Being fit to do what you seek to create. What's the purpose of being fit? To create what you want. Because what you want, what matters to you, depends on your commitment and your disciplines to your own fitness. What goes in the pocket of health? What might you be looking at? Well, what kind of food are you putting in your body? How have your food eating habits been trending? How often are you eating during the day? What are you eating? What are you putting in your body? Food is like an environment. You grant power to it. You rely on it. It holds you in a certain way. How are you doing on maintaining your steady blood sugar levels? How often are you eating? What's your frequency of meals? What's the quality of food? How water-rich is the food? Are you taking care of yourself here? You see, if you're a business owner, you've gotten really overly generous. You know, a lot of business owners, over the years, I've been coaching them for 15 years. So many of them are so generous, they're the last person to eat above them all. They're the last in line. They mistreat themselves. They have no self-care. I don't know why that is. I think it's like a frog in boiling water. That if you put them into the lukewarm water and you turn it up to a boil, the frog will stop being sensitive to the changes. And then ultimately it dies. And I think in some way the same dynamic happens for business owners. We just become so used to the normal that we don't know any difference. And then we get cooked. We get cooked in fatigue. We get cooked in a mechanical burnout. We've been in our business or practice for so long, it's just the same old, and nothing's likely to change. And then monetarily, we become overly dependent on what we do. We become dependent on all the old traditions, all the old practices, that it's the same old, and we put our kids in the best schools, and we get a big roof over our house, we get into debt, we try to have a little bit of prestige, and we get caught in our own excellence. I encounter this trapping with so many entrepreneurs where they get so good at something that they can't get out of it and move on to the next step in their life. That's our primary challenge that the VIP coach attempts to solve with clients. Okay, so what's next? After your health, what tweaks are you going to make in your relationships? How about your marriage? What about your relationships with your family? That's a key body of work. What are the rituals, the disciplines? What are you going to start, stop, or continue in these areas? What's the outcome that you're committed to with this area? Is it really an end in mind, or is it just a process? Are you thinking about solving a current problem? Are you being situationally referenced? Or are you really creating an outcome that you dream of creating in each of these relationships? You don't need to be practical. Don't be realistic. That's just you putting the past on the present moment. Instead, think about what you truly seek to create. Review that. Look at the current reality that you have with the relationships that are currently trending in your life. Pick the relationships that you intend to focus on for the next 12 weeks. Think about what steps that you could be taking toward the outcome that you seek to create, taking personal responsibility. Then go to the individual relationships and let them know what your promises are. Evangelize what your plans are. That way it positively obligates you and keeps you accountable, and the other person's aware of what to expect. Personal finance. Take a look at your net worth. Take a look at how you're earning your money. Where are you earning your money? How are you earning your money? Take a look at the money that you're socking away. All entrepreneurs want the freedom of money. Try to sock away 10 to 20% of your money this year. Get in the habit of paying yourself first. Set up some kind of automatic draw where on a regular basis you just automatically take 10 to 20% of whatever you earn. Pay your company first. Pay your company is a first item of expense. If you can pay yourself at home, how about your company paying itself too? If you've been trying to work out your profits at your company and make them consistent, this is the way to do it. Take 10% off of whatever your company earns and learn to budget and live off that 90% remaining. Your net profit is not what you spend. Your net profit is what you make minus your cost. But your operating cash flow is something different. So look at those in two different ways. Your OCF, your operating cash flow, and then you've got, of course, you've got your net profit. But you shouldn't be making decisions like how much you distribute to yourself or paying down debt or buying new assets based on your profit. You should be seeing how much operating cash flow you can retain from your profit. Operating cash flow is the money coming in and the money going out. If you want more operating cash flow, you got to look at your receivables. You got to look at processes and systems around your payables. You may be able to extend those. You may be able to get your receivables in more. You may be able to sell more. You may be able to trim your costs, or maybe you can get your inventory off your shelf sooner. So there are things that you can do commensurate with your operating cash flow to be a more sustainable business and to be able to draw more capital from your business. Pay attention to the net. Don't pay attention to the revenue. Okay, just kind of a broad brush here, folks. How about your fun and leisure? You probably want the freedom of time, but time in two things. You want to spend time on where you're gifted, your superior skills you have a passion for, your personal gift. What are some of the things that you can do to be focusing more on your personal gift? Look at your team. Look at your support structure. Do you have an offloading plan? What are 2 or 3 things that you could delegate this year that'll free you up and put you back into your personal gift? That's where your enthusiasm is. That's why people have relationships with you. That's the fun and juice of being in your business. That's where your enthusiasm is. That's where one of the most productive ways you could spend your time exists for you. So take a look at what you could do to free yourself up and focus more on your personal gift. It's a really, really, really key area. And your freedom of your, obviously your time in terms of your free time, your fun, and your leisure. And 3 things I want you to think about. During your free time this year, who are you going to be with? What are you going to be doing in terms of activities that are in your life dream? And 3 is where are you going to go? Don't go somewhere you've already been. Go somewhere new. When you go into new environments, you get new perspectives. You get a sense of different cultures. You become intrigued and fascinated and surprised by things, and that brings you into aliveness and keeps you young. Variation is a great way to come back to rekindling the spirit of your youth. right? So think about your free time. How many free days do you want to occupy this year? Remember, you don't make money by time and effort. You make money by creating value for others. So you define the time first, and remember that free time is the beginning. It's not the end. You don't have to justify it. Your free time as an entrepreneur is a necessity. It is not a luxury. You depend on it. It's the source of your creativity. It is what brings you into being great, into being someone non-interchangeable, someone that is able to bring to the table something for the world that nobody else does, right? That's where you start. That's the origin of great work, is how you spend your free time. You probably also want to be looking at your charity, your contributions, right? What are you doing in terms of significance? This may be a key area for you, so what tweaks are you going to make? What are you going to start, stop, or continue? How about extracurricular activities? What are you doing beyond work or traditional education? Maybe you're going to take a martial arts class or a pottery class or a painting class or learn a second language this year. Starting something new always gives you new energy in life. There's something really cool, therapeutic, and energizing about creating something new. So extracurricular activities. All right, let me go back and review those. So health, your fitness, your exercise, your eating, your food intake. Now we go to your relationships. Each one is a body of work. Your spouse or significant other, your children, and maybe your close and near friends and family. You can identify how specific you want to be. I recommend that you do, so you have some specific, noticeable actions that you can measure in each. Next, your money, your finances, your net worth. In your business, your profits, your operating cash flow. What starts, stops, and continues do you have there? Socking away money, how you earn your money, what you can do to increase your earning power. Next, we looked at the other piece, which is your fun and leisure. What are you doing with your free time? What are you going to be doing on behalf of focusing your personal gifts and where those personal gifts are needed for the world around you? Also, your community. What kind of community do you want to be creating? What kind of significance or contributions or voluntary work do you want to be creating or contributing? Also, your extracurricular activities, right? Things outside work, learning something new, or maybe intellectual development. Things that you want to learn, skills that you want to learn, things that you want to read and acquire and learn more about. Maybe peak experiences that you want to create, right? So anything in here is what matters to you. What about spiritual, your relationship with God or universe? What are some of the start, stops, or continues? What are some of the rituals and disciplines and habits that are going to help you steadfast create that future in the spiritual dimension of your life? Maybe it's about connecting more to the fundamental values that you want to organize your life by this year. These are what your life plan is about. And as you look at these, what I want you to do is next to each kind of revisiting kind of what you want to create, the conceptual dream, the fairy tale you want to create in each, if you identify a few statements about kind of the picture of the future you seek to create, right next to it or underneath it, describe the current reality that you actually have. Be open, honest, and transparent with yourself, true to yourself about what you actually have. If you don't know where you actually are, you won't know how to make intelligent tweaks strategically on behalf of what you seek to create. Then you begin to propose some broad brush proposals, strategic initiatives, what you want to start, what you want to stop, what you want to continue, and then perhaps some tasks or steps that would support that, and then an implementation timeline. Think of your life in the next 90 days. In all these areas, pick 5 maybe to 7 priorities or objectives that really compose the apex of your hierarchy of importance. What really, really, really matters to you. You may find that a lot of what really matters to you, it doesn't cost a lot to acquire. Think about it. If you made half of what you make, and you could only keep 10 things in your life, what would they be? And I'll bet as you start saying to yourself what those things are, you realize there really aren't any spending or cost barriers to getting those. Because what you really hold near and dear has to do with something in your relationships probably, or something emotional, or spending time with your children or being present with them, or just enjoying the moment and being happy with the sunrise or the sunset, or creating a poem, or creating. And a lot of the things that we seek to create, the love levels, the loving relationships we seek to create, creating value for other people, these are things that all we need to do is just start making decisions about the fact that we are going to do that. We take claim of what we aim for. We claim the expected conditions we seek to create. So it always starts with a life plan. If you want to know how engaged you are, and if you want to see how involved you are in your life pleasurably, it's either you're working on a life plan or you're not. And when you're living into a life plan, when you're creating an unknown into the directions, the lanes of the life plan we just talked about, in terms of creating great experiences, great places to be, great dwellings you want to create, great business outcomes you seek to create, great projects that you want to create, relationships you seek to create, and other results, what you begin to notice is that you're living in a creative orientation, much different than a reactive orientation, because you take your cues from your choices rather than your reactions to the circumstances, and that gives you power. It means that you're not organizing your life around how you feel, or you're not removing the current problems that you have. You're just generating out of the love that you have. Creating is love. Love is creating the things that you really, truly seek to create. The root word desire, desire, means of the king. When you're working from what matters, it's what is it that I want to create in my life that brings me into the love that I am. And when you're truly loving something, when you're truly creating upon that which you love, it doesn't mean that getting there will be everything you love. The process isn't always full of love. It's not always full of favorable things or difficulties. It's not always full of things that are easy. But the point is that you're focused on subject matter in your life that does matter to you, and that is not selfish, because people know when someone has signed up into their intentions this way. You're more present. You're more likely to create what matters to you when you're inclined to intend it, because things that you see, you notice. Your intention informs your attention. If you want to buy a Mercedes, you're going to start seeing them everywhere, right? Our brains are made that way. That whatever we desire goes on our radar. And then we increase our likelihood of creating that. And then we wait for grace in the passage on the way of creating that, and unforeseen forces come to our aid. Predictable miracles happen when we set ourselves onto our intentions, making that serious internal commitment to what we seek to create. All right, I'm going to take a break, and I'll be right back.
It's Monday morning. I'm drained.
You've got mail.
Look at this. It's the Monday Advantage video. Yeah! Now I can get past the distractions and implement something new. The Monday Advantage. It's that easy. Just subscribe free for a limited time at highlevelperformance.com. Every Monday, launch the week with fresh tools, giving you the right state of mind, focus, and confidence. See what becoming a gifted boss and serial creator is all about. Subscribe today at highlevelperformance.com. That's highlevelperformance.com. And start enjoying your Monday Advantage today. Grow your business and grow as a human being with these captivating books authored by the VIP coach himself, John Davidson. The Day I Built My Barbecue is about creative freedom. Learn how you can not only live well, but also grow a thriving business at the same time. John shows you his step-by-step technique with the principles, strategies, and steps to move from a business operator to a business owner. The day you build your barbecue is the day we all wish for. Totally free of distractions, totally available to living well, fully present. Then don't miss Unstoppable You. It's about creative value. When we do what we love and love what we do, we discover ways to make our business more fun and monetize our passions. Through stories, tools, and steps, this book will help you bring something to the world that no one else can, and bridge your most unique talents to the deepest aspirations you have of the future, and stand in the presence of all you are. It's about creative purpose. What does it mean to live on purpose? How do we work with the mystery that life presents us at every moment? In this book, John shows us through the silent spaces in life how to connect with our innermost sacred projects and passages. You'll learn how to bring the work, language, and presence of the soul into everything you do. Visit highlevelperformance.com to pick up any of these books in paperback or Kindle editions today. That's highlevelperformance.com. Having a life where you have the creative freedom to do what you love and to offer the world something that only you can bring to the table. That is the world of high-level performance with John Davidson. That is the world of radical creativity. That is the world that you can be a part of when you realize all that is holding you back is you. Begin the journey through one-on-one coaching that gives you the finesse for business and lifetime achievement, and find your place on the roadmap to high-level performance today. Visit highlevelperformance.com. From go time to slow time, Slow is the new fast. Mach 0, making time for life one thing at a time. With VIP coach John Davidson.
Okay, this is JD, and this is the second half of the Mach 0 podcast show, Making Time for Life, one thing at a time. We're talking about getting you ready for 2014. I want you to shoot out of a cannon into the year. I want you to be a human cannonball going into this new year. Now, let's get into your business plan. We just came from the life plan in putting together several items that position your life plan so that you can be creating upon subject matter that you really want. But your business plan is composed of a few other items. When you think about your business plan, I'm not talking about a business plan that gets you financing. I'm talking about a business actionable plan that you can benchmark against, that you can guide all your decisions, actions, and communications from. You can evangelize this to your team, and you can stay focused and anchored. It keeps your rudder on the water as a leader, as a leading business owner. So what are kind of the core elements that lie underneath the umbrella of your business plan? Well, I look at four things. Number one is that your business depends on certain habits. Individually, collectively, as a team, and as an individual producer. Your personal production and your enterprise excellence, your enterprise development, depends on your habits, your tendencies or biases toward a certain course of action. Some of this is involuntary, some of this is conscious. Obviously, shaping a habit starts with a consciousness about our incompetencies and our competencies. And then as we confront those, as we learn, we're able to remain and stay unconsciously competent at what we do. So we can, in fact, change and shape our habits by focusing on key areas that are important. For example, being on time. Or for example, saying please and thank you. Or for example, calling someone to follow up 24 hours after they buy. Or telling someone in your business, don't keep me a secret. Pay me forward to your friends because I know I can help. Or saying please and thank you and sending a thank you letter after a really nice opportunity is given to you. Or maybe it is always finishing the things that you start. Or maybe it is keeping your word. This is like a marketing plan. These kind of behaviors are what marketing are today. We live in an interconnected society. So marketing is behavior. It is always dynamic, and it's the total sum of everything we're doing. And either what we're doing is remarkable or it's not. So we're all kind of on the hook from kind of a collective influence on marketing being a total summation of our behavior. We have to watch our step closer than ever. And so your habits greatly impact the probability of the future you seek to create with your business. If you want to know how you're operating, just take a look at your habits. If you want to look at whether you're failing or making mistakes, go back to your behavior. Look at it how you're thinking, or look at it in how you're approaching things. Look at current reality in terms of your habits, and what new habits do you want to shape? What habits that are working do you want to continue? And what habits need to stop? You know, for example, I had an entrepreneur that wanted to stop saying yes to unwanted clients. You know, his whole year was being afraid of telling someone to go away because he was afraid of disapproval. And he thought about, well, it'll give me a bad reputation. It's just not true. That you may want to start shaping the habit of staying true to your ideal client criteria. And that takes some sacrifices and some guts. You got to turn away people that aren't suitable to your capabilities and deliveries. Okay, well, you got to start doing that. That's a decision to focus that habit in your business. Maybe another habit is to have regular and effective meetings. Maybe another habit is to be empowering your staff by practicing more humble inquiry and asking more questions rather than advocating and telling everybody what to do. Maybe another habit is in the customer service range of what you guys do for customers and thinking about the unique experience that you're giving them. Or maybe another habit is the habits that you tend to do as a business or you individually to retrieve business. So our habits fall into several categories. We're either generating business, converting the business, optimizing the business, or we're retaining the business. And so we take a closer look at our habits and tendencies, and be honest, you may have to change a few to reposition yourself on behalf of your goals. Second is your support structure. You depend on a support structure to hold you in a certain way. You delegate certain things, you offload these things to bring people into touch with their personal gifts. Bringing them into their personal gifts allows your team to deliver the kind of voluntary energy of, I don't have to, but I just want to. And want to energy is a lot different than have to energy, right? Have to energy is really, 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 really obligatory. People have a lot of resentment often around have to energy. That's just a job description. By having want to energy, we turn jobs into opportunities. That the work that we do is so enthusiastic. The work that we do excites us. What you're noticing is that you need to make your first customer your team. If you have an unhappy team, you will have an unhappy customer. The customer is not king. They are not first. Your team is the number one customer. And if you want to treat them well, then be the bouncer of your nightclub and make sure that good clients get in the door that honor your team's capabilities and treat them with respect. That everyone on your team is an equal partner. That there's nothing patriarchal in your organization this year. Make sure and have conversations like partners. Your job with your team is to confront their freedom. Ask them what kind of organization they want to give their life to. Ask them what kind of organization they choose to inhabit. Once they choose, it's theirs. Choice means ownership. I can or I don't have to, but I have a choice about it. So you can't make anybody do anything. You can give them a reason maybe to make it a priority, but you can't make them make it that way. Your job is not to motivate them. Your job is to create a setting where conversations can bring to bear the kind of motivation, magnetism, and the kind of appeal to your mission, your vision, and your values. So your support structure is picking the right team. You either hire smart or manage tough. Do you know the needs of the work? You must. To attract superior performance, you've got to describe a superior performer. What do they do in the job that makes them successful? If you haven't had anybody to teach you that, if you haven't had anybody tell you what a superior performance is, then make it up. Make it up based on the direction that you want to take your business. If you do have someone that does, write down all the great things that they had, that they did the job well from, and then ask yourself what outcome would be possible if they really nailed it. You need to make performance profiles for the key positions in your business so that people understand your needs and then they can bring their unique abilities to the table, take personal responsibility, and organize themselves to create the needs of the work that you outline. Okay, next. Next is your relationships. Not every customer is going to be right for you. It's true. If you want to do your best work, you have to be the bouncer of your nightclub to insert yourself into the qualities, pedigree, caliber, preferences, characteristics that your ideal client has. You will never, ever give the non-interchangeable work style that you would give an ideal client. They count on you to be non-interchangeable. That's why they want to do business with you, because they can't get it from anybody else. Why is that? Because when you occupy an ideal client and you deliver wow factor service and wow factor things that they expect, what you do is you create a reciprocal referral from them. They tend to go out and they propagate. They tend to go out and multiply into other people that think and act just like them. So if you're thinking about how could I afford to do that and cut out all my misfit clients, what do I do with all my C's? What do you mean? The biggest risk is to keep them. One, you got to honor your staff and treat them with great people. And two, you know that the lower 20% of your business brings 80% of the headaches, so you have to clean house. The middle 60% are those customers that you need to give education to, put them on drip systems, and hand them out the things that they need to learn to become A customers. And then the A's, you need to create a unique process, a unique system just meant for those A's so they can be delighted in what you do like no one else can. They can't get it anywhere else, and it's critical to their future success. They will evangelize, they'll become raving fans, you'll be remarkable, and you will grow, but you have to make these kind of sacrifices and turn this corner. Your value creation. What kind of business are you doing right now? What kind of value are you offering? If you want to double your money, you got to have that kind of value. So we've talked about team. We talked about the team, the support structure. If you want to double your money, you've got to have a support structure to support it. If you want to double your money, you got to have the habits that represent it. If you want to double your money, you got to have the kind of relationships that are going to keep you earning that kind of result. Now it's going to be about what kind of value do you create, and you got 4 or 5 key areas that you can continue to create value with. The first area you create value with is your lead generation. How do you attract people to your business? So think about what you do online, offline to get people's attention and stimulate interest. Think about what you do personally. Think about what you do non-personally, impersonally, transactionally. Really put a circle around the top 3 or 4 tactics in each of these. Online, offline, personal, impersonal. And when you do that, you can start to identify doing a few things, the significant few things, extremely well, instead of being so good at the trivial minis. Only 20% of the activity that you do to generate business brings 80% of the business. So why are you spending all the time and money on all these things that really don't generate? You'd probably be better just to clean house, do a little bit of scientific forensic, and figure out what's really working. Next, how do you convert the business? What's your sales process? You've got to convert the sale. What are your specific steps for converting the sale? Where do you need to be better, more fit in selling, in terms of getting the lead, diagnosing their needs, analyzing their needs, proving and cost justifying, closing the sale, following up, reselling, cross-selling, generating favorable introductions. Identify impact areas in your sales work that you need to be bolstering and fostering that's going to bring you up a notch in terms of your earning power. Remember, the number one asset that you have is your talent, your unique ability. It's unlimited. There's no other asset that you have more control over to position your earning power. So your selling depends on how well you focus your unique ability, and it's in those conversations. Are you listening? Are you asking the right questions that position your value for the customer? Next, how do you optimize them? What's your total ultimate client experience? What is your service experience? Service is no longer just a cost factor. It's an asset. What can you do to turn your service function into one of the key assets of the company? You might think about adding on or accessorizing your sales or making packages or having an ongoing strategy of preeminence to turn a customer into a lifetime value client. You need to think about that all the way along. Not just think about the first date, but the 22nd and the 23rd and the 24th to turn that client into an annuity relationship. How do you retain them? Well, it's simple. You make sure that you wow them to the point where they want to go out and talk to their friends, but you need to educate them around the referral process. Doing that involves after every transaction or after the first sale explaining why it's important that they pay you favorable introductions and what they gain from that. So look at what you're doing here to proactively go after referrals. What kind of incentives are you giving them to refer you? What kind of incentives are you getting to the people they refer you? What kind of education are you giving them on why it's important to refer you and what to say when they do? You got to be able to help them hand off the baton and make it monkey-proof, and don't make them salespeople. That's your responsibility. How are you going to follow up with that referred person within 24 hours? What kind of greeting honorably are you going to say to them to blow them out of the water? And then it goes on from there, and you continue to pay forward the same outstanding, unique experience that they are then going to, for future generations, pay forward. Okay, that's going to be our show for today. I'm going to cliffhang you on this show. We have 2 other items that we're going to do in the next Mach Zero podcast. We're going to talk about business vision, and I'm also going to talk about priority management, how you're going to create the subject matter that sits in your life and your business plans, and what you can do about it better. Time blocking, the daily 6, your weekly project list, what we call the milk route, and also your momentary decisions that you make in the day to stay goal-centered in your behavior rather than reactionary. It's going to be a fantastic show, but you're going to have to wait a little bit and get it. Thank you so much for following along. You can always go online and learn more at highlevelperformance.com. One of the last things I want to tell you is that you can get help. It's very smart to get a coach. Knowing that you need help is a great skill, and it doesn't mean that you're one down. You're a lot smarter to get help because you recognize you have blind spots. They're already built in. There's those that appreciate that and having an outsider look at them, and there are those that are not willing and able to do that. But I truly know that people in greatness, athletes, entertainers, and great performers work with coaches. So I hope you give yourself the gift of a wingman, someone who looks after you this year and who's paid to be honest with you. The number of our office is 714-912-9261. 714-912-9261. We're online at highlevelperformance.com. This is the Mach Zero podcast, making time for life, one thing at a time. Don't inspire dread from all these ideas. You're overwhelmed. You have packed so much into you during this show, you don't even know where to start. I want you to write down the 3 or 4 key ideas that would give you the biggest bang. The key ideas that would be the easiest to implement. The key ideas that you just learned that would have a 5-year transformation for you. The key ideas that you can implement that would not interrupt your team's priorities or the current course of action that you're taking, but something that you can massage in right away and get some immediate leverage. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.